Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
What's up, everybody?
and Michael Reed.
Saul.
Looking real good. Looks like you had fun over the weekend, Reed. And speaking of, a bunch of news came about over the weekend, and as of yesterday, the biggest news by far, the Washington football team took the league in America by storm by hiring Jason Wright as the first African American president of the Washington football team. I mean, much congratulations to him. Reed, what was your first reaction?
I loved it. I thought that was amazing to see. I mean, everything that I've read about him, he's 100% qualified. He's basically going to be having just the business end going on. He's going to be dealing with that. Not much to do with football, even though he's a former football player. I'm sure he could have some things to do, but it's nice to see that we were once known as the team with the most racist name in sports, and now all of a sudden we're kind of leading the charge and diversifying
Yeah.
the NFL. I mean, we hired Julie Donaldson, we hired a person of color as our head coach in Ron Rivera, and now we just hired the first African American team president in NFL history. I think that it's huge. I think that it was also a very smart hire, and he's young too. He's only 38 years old, I think, and he has the business acumen. He's turned a lot of places around, and I'm excited. I think this was a perfect hire.
Yeah, and it seemed like they hired him based on his resume that he was the best man for the job. I don't think his skin color had anything to do with
It didn't.
him being qualified for the position. I think
No.
this was a dude that's a very smart, intelligent, obviously very driven individual that knows what he's talking about. And the funny thing about this aspect is I think his football background has nothing to do with him being hired. I think that's
It's
more
just
like
a plus.
a cherry on top, really, on
Right.
being able to deal with players. So it actually is a huge plus that's not being talked about enough. What was your immediate reaction, Hall?
Yeah, just like everyone else that was, well, I'm not gonna say everyone else because obviously, if you looked on Twitter, everyone was like, "Oh, it's a PR stunt," blah 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 blah. But like majority of the people, I was definitely impressed and happy, and I think he's gonna do a great job. And if you just watch some of the interviews he's done on First Take, and if you listen to the interview he did on Grant and Danny and other various stations, Good Morning America, he's obviously a very articulate guy.
Yeah.
He's like you said, his resume speaks for itself as far as business acumen. I was actually watching Speak for Yourself earlier today, and he was talking with Marcellus Wiley because he was kind of one of those guys questioning like, oh, they just did it because he's black. They just hired a female executive after the WAPO story, blah blah blah. So he questioned him, and his answer literally was just like, I just dropped my jaws. I was like, yo, that was like by far the perfect answer. Like there could be no other better answer than the one he gave. And he was like, if I took the job over, he was like, I'm the most qualified. My resume speaks for itself. I have uh, experience in turning around businesses as far as like after like scandals and stuff like that. And he was like, if I'm black, well, guess what? It wouldn't even matter. There's just a cherry on top, and I'm the first one of my kind to do it.
Right.
So shout out to him. He killed Max Kellerman in the interview that he
Thank
gave
God.
because yeah, because he tried to question him again about because everyone knows Max Kellerman hates Washington.
Yeah.
But
How does
go ahead.
how does Max Kellerman still have a job at this point? Like
I
he just
mean,
says the most outrageous shit, so I
they
understand
put
it.
him
But
on there
like,
to be like the new Skip, and he
yeah, but
Well, honestly, he's the
his
new.
takes are the worst.
Honestly, he's the new Colin Coward,
I was
if
just about to
anything.
say that. Yeah, right, right. Saying
I,
just stupid
I,
stuff.
even Colin Coward is just like nah. He's like I don't know Nick Wright, all those guys. I have to get on my nerves. I don't know. I used to like him whenever they had like minor roles, then
Right.
became like prominent guys, and I'm just like that. But anyway, getting back to Jason Wright, he's gonna kill it. I think that he's gonna turn. He's more. He said he wants to get involved in the communities. He's a big culture guy. He was talking to Marcellus Wiley, and he said that he was talking with the Snyders, and it was all about like the culture, community, what they want to do, and they're and then it eventually turned into finances and
Right.
how can you help us. So yeah, it was a great hire by Dan Snyder, and who would have thought that in 2020, the crazy world we're living in, people are giving Dan Snyder praise.
Right.
Yeah, and you saw the difference, between a Bruce Allen press conference and the interviews that
Yeah.
Jason Wright has done so far, and what has everyone been complaining about for decades, and that is put a football person in place to be able to run this thing. And obviously, it doesn't have anything to do with the football operations, but just let them run the business, let them do their thing.
Right.
And obviously,
Exactly.
this guy comes in, and this is somebody
He
that gives us hope on top of it. And
he
so much respect to Jason Wright.
he was also pretty funny too. They
Yeah.
I forget what interview it was, but they asked him because this was before we knew exactly what role he was going to fill as team president, and they asked him what he if he was going to be involved in anything with football, and he goes, "I already have my draft board for 2021 set.
Mm.
But it doesn't really matter because I'm just going to be running the business side of things.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all Ron. That's all them." He's like, "I don't have anything to do with that." But
Yeah. And that the second news over the weekend that kind of came about was Alex Smith being activated off the pup list, being able to get cleared by the team, and then being on the practice field, was in pads today. And I know John Kime was under a lot of pressure because he put up a video showing Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith going side by side in a simple out drill, quarterbacks throwing an out route to a wide receiver, and Haskins ends up overthrowing it. But the fact is, he had to take it down because Twitter was up in riots about John Kime, like he had some sort of incentive, which is ridiculous. But the fact is, for Alex to be even on the field, I don't think anybody can stress this enough. This is absolutely amazing. There's going to be books, there's going to be movies on this stuff. So happy for Alex, and it only makes, we've said this before in previous episodes, this only makes the QB room better because Alex is able to see the reps in person, see what they're seeing, the quarterbacks, seeing what the play is called, and being able to talk with them and communicate with these young guys on what you're supposed to do at that level, and being able to control the football, because last season both these quarterbacks had an issue with turning over the football. And listening to Alex Smith is not going to be a problem. And the fact that Alex was able to get back on the field, I think is just going to pay huge dividends to the quarterbacks.
Yeah, nah, I 100% agree. Like you said before, obviously there's gonna be like books, movies, like folklore told about this crazy comeback. Literally no one except maybe Alex Smith and his family thought he would get back to this point. Me personally, I know like they keep preaching it's gonna be a competition, 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 but if you would like listen to I think it was Rihanna Walker's like article, if you read it, I mean not listen to it. If you read it, it says something about he can't even control his foot at this point right now.
Yeah,
So
the nerve in his, he
yeah,
can't, yeah.
it's gonna be eventually he will like get it back, but we don't know when that's gonna be. But yeah, I just think that it's like Dwayne's job to lose, and I don't think he's gonna lose it unless he comes out in the first 8 weeks and just looks like horrible, like bottom of the league quarterback.
Yeah,
Then
I
you
don't even
probably
think that's going to happen.
and then even then they would turn it over to Kyle Allen. I think
Yeah.
before Kyle or
Yeah.
Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith would literally be like, if the season's like a lost hope, or like 3 or 4 and whatever, and it's maybe like week 15 or 16. All right, if he's good to go, he's had the whole season. He can actually take a contact and be able to protect himself. He can be mobile in the pocket when he needs to be. Okay, let's put him out there and see what he has. But again, obviously with him being there, it's huge dividends. And if you even listen to Wayne, he said going back to last year towards the end, Alex Smith was like kind of helping him, like show him how to prepare, how to be a pro, and clearly he took that into the offseason and expanded it even more. So yeah, I mean, obviously competition is great, but I think it's Dwayne's job to extremely lose.
Yeah, and look, as much as I love Alex, I just don't see him being able to start anytime this season. I know a lot of people are pumping up like there's a possibility, but I think this is Dwayne's job to lose. And then I think it's Kyle Allen. I think Alex Smith, the best way to look at him right now is as like a player coach.
Yeah,
You know,
like a second QB coach.
right, and that's essentially what he's going to be doing here, and that's where I think it pays the most dividends to the team. What about you, Reed? What was your reaction?
Yeah, of course, I loved it. I was super happy for Alex Smith. That video of his kids and his wife spraying the fake champagne on him was
Yeah.
awesome to see. That was emotional.
Dude, I was weirded out. I thought he was going to roll his ankle or something in those
How
sandals.
funny would that have been if
The
he
funny-
slipped or
I
something and
know.
started over again?
The funny thing is, Twitter was going crazy. Like, he can't even look. How's he going to be mobile in the pocket? And then the first thing I said was, well, the dude's wearing sandals. Like, he didn't
Yeah.
want to fall on his face and look like an ass. Like,
Right.
But yeah, they had him in 7-on-7s today. Obviously, he's not going to do 11-on-11 scrimmages. He's just out there getting a feel for things. And like you said, it's going to take a little bit for him to get his footing, no pun intended. But he's going to really just help the locker room. And with Kyle Allen already knowing this offense, like the back of his hand. That'll help Dwayne. And then on top of that, Alex Smith just knowing the way that football works and his football IQ and his just overall acumen for what to do against NFL defenses is just going to help Dwayne. And like Hall said, he's basically just going to be a second quarterback coach, and it's going to help out. Will he get on the field this season? I don't think that there's really any chance, even if we're that bad. Even if Dwayne Haskins gets benched for some reason, Kyle Allen comes in and starts throwing picks, I still don't think that it would be worth the risk unless it was for like a snap or two. He's got to get at least, I would imagine, another year or so to strengthen. But yeah, I love it. Of course, you love to see that. You love to hear the success story.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, what's it called? Dwayne Haskins has linked up with Steven Sims a good bit. They have looked really good so far. Terry McLaurin doing Terry McLaurin things. Logan Thomas had 2 great catches today, but they couldn't focus all of their attention there. And I think that just speaks volumes to Logan Thomas himself, just showcasing when he does have a little bit of an opportunity that he shows that he can catch the football. I've said it for months. I think this is our tight end number 1. I think we're in good hands with Logan Thomas, and I'm glad to see that he is making a little bit of a jump around the team, so to speak. Now, Ron Rivera spoke today, and it looked like Sadiq Charles is going to be sitting out a couple days. What is the latest with that?
If I read correctly and heard correctly, he didn't really explain it and go into it. He just he just kind of said
he just said him and Ryan Anderson are that's nothing serious. I think that's both. It's a leg injury on both of them, I believe, but it's not anything. They just got to give them a couple days rest or so. Let them kind of get back into the swing of things. Until then, I know you saw previous videos that we had seen from previous days at camp had shown a lot of Cornelius Lucas at left tackle. Today,
that was yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, and I know today Jerron Christian was at left tackle. He was playing with the ones, but that doesn't mean anything right now. They're kind of just throwing everybody around and kind of getting the best fit and putting people out there. And everybody was up in arms about Apke at free safety and who was starting at linebacker and the defensive line. It's like, guys, calm down.
Right.
First day with pads on.
Ron Rivera talked in his presser about Sadiq Charles' injury, right? And he said he wanted to protect the players because he doesn't want to tip off the possible injuries to other teams to be able to target them, right? So you have to imagine he's doing this in the exact same way. You have to imagine with his team. So when the first day of media availability at practice, do you think they're going to strut out there the people that they think is going to be their first team? No, they're going to throw some guys out there. They're going to screw with them a little bit, you know? And that's where I kind of saw yesterday where it was Cornelius Lucas and Wes Schweitzer. You know, that kind of took me for surprise a little bit. I was like, that doesn't make much sense. Wes Schweitzer, why would he be getting the nod? And then today, it was Jerron Christian and Wes Martin. So it looks like this is how it's going to be, a left tackle roulette. And this is the perfect thing, I think, in my opinion, to be, I've said it before, taking a handful of pasta noodles and throwing it at the wall and seeing which one sticks. And that's what they're kind of doing here. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I don't think that you can go wrong with that. You're trying to figure out the right combinations. You're trying to figure out who meshes well with who has what, who can work well together. And you're also, like you said, you're not tipping your hand to the opposing teams. There's no preseason this year, so you're not going to go out there and when the media is allowed at training camp, allow the other team to watch you practice pretty much and see what you're doing in practice. So I think it makes sense with what they're doing. Everybody needs to calm down. It was the first day of 11 on 11s, and everybody's already like, why wasn't Chase Young with the ones? And it's like, guys, pump the brakes. It'll happen. Just relax. Everybody's going to get their shot.
Yeah, and speaking of Chase Young, he looks incredible today. Poor number 79, poor dude. He was asked to block Chase Young one-on-one in a drill, and Chase Young engaged his shoulders and then just threw him aside, and it blew up on Twitter.
Did you see that get off? By Chase Young, there's a freeze frame of it, like right as it snapped, right as the coaches say go, and Chase is already about 2 feet off the ground with both hands already up forward, ready to engage, and the lineman has barely even lifted his hand off the ground. Chase Young's get off is so crazy.
Yeah, and the one battle that I took away the most was Chase Young versus Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses actually played Chase Young really well, and after Chase Young did a bull rush attempt and did not succeed on Morgan, Chase Young went and did 5 push-ups on the sideline. No
No
other
coaches
defensive
asked him to.
no other defensive player did this. No coaches asked Chase Young to do it, and they asked him afterwards, what was that about? And he said, he wants to get better when he feels like he doesn't succeed on a play. He wants to do that. And absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, when's the last time Washington had a player at any type of caliber or work ethic that he's had? Well, I'm not going to go that far because back in the early 2000s we had guys like that, but in the past 10 years, I was good. When's the last time we've had someone that's going to come in and day out and just literally not be about like talking about like, oh, I want to get better day by day, but literally be about getting better day by day. And again, you just witnessed it on the in the not the video, but in the comments on Twitter and everyone reporting on it. That I mean, the guy's literally just like, oh, I didn't win the rep. Just like if you don't catch a pass to your receiver, drop and give me 5. Oh, I didn't win my rep. Drop and give me 5. But again, like, it's not the coach being like, hey, do that. It's just him being like, man, I ain't win that. I gotta get better. I gotta get better. I gotta get stronger. My bull rush didn't work. So I love it.
And it's so nice to see somebody do that and not only do it because there's cameras around like RG3
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
making a documentary about my comeback, so let me just make sure that I look as good as possible. But Chase Young, yeah, and this is why I think everybody loves Chase Young and why. I mean, I don't want to put it at 0% because that's dumb, but like it's pretty close to 0%. The bus factor when you enter in his athleticism and his natural.
Don't do that.
I'm just saying,
that.
man. But
Don't
then
do
you combine
that.
it with the work
All
ethic.
good. I'm knocking on wood. It's all good.
Yeah, it's a
Don't do
wall
that.
just knocked on wood. But you combine that with that work ethic, like nobody's asking him to
How
do that.
dare you?
This is exactly what you saw, or this is exactly what everybody was saying this offseason, is that this guy is just, he has a determination to be great. He's going to meeting with Jonathan Allen. He's going to meeting with Deron Payne. He's sticking with Ryan Kerrigan. And now he's doing this, just doing 5 push-ups because he didn't win a rep. He's going to be great. And then not to mention, opposite him, Montez Sweat looked fantastic today too.
Yes, he did.
Montez Sweat played amazing. Did you see that one rush against Sheriff and Moses with Ioannidis and Sweat?
Do you see the move Ioannidis put on Sheriff?
Yeah.
I was like, sheesh.
Dude, I'm telling
monster.
when I did Ioannidis' film breakdown of his sacks last season, the one thing that separates every single time that he has one of those sacks, his hands. And he's combining his pass rush moves with his hands, and you can tell if you go back and watch that video, you can see him hit Sheriff's left hand down as he does that. He skids around him. I mean, it's amazing because So one thing I yell about my film breakdowns over these college guys, pass rushers, I can't stress enough how important it is to utilize your hands and to be able to hit the engagement away from blockers, because like Ioannidis showed us today, it's so pivotal because you can open wide open, which Ioannidis clearly had.
And that's against a strong Pro Bowl guard, one of the top 3 or 4 right guards in the NFL, Braden Sheriff. So that's super impressive. And again, Montez Sweat, we know Morgan Moses has lost some weight, but Montez Sweat, just his speed around the edge and his ability, even though he's put on some weight, to put on some muscle, he's still so fast and quick and just agile. And I'm just so excited for this defensive front.
Yeah, he looked great coming around that corner on Moses, like you said. And you could tell, just like you said in the video,
his bend.
Exactly, the bend. He still has the bend while he put on all the size, a little bit of size, a little bit more weight. Still has the agility, still has the bend, still has the quickness, if not even more quicker now. So, this defensive front is going to be something to be terrified of. And on the flip side, this offensive line, they're going to look bad throughout the offseason because they're going to be getting beat a lot. But iron sharpens iron, so it's only going to bode well, especially for the left side of the line because everyone has questions about them. So I think that going against these guys every single day in practice is going to bode well for the line.
You're not going to face – I'm not taking anything away from the Eagles. The Eagles have a fantastic defensive line. They really do. The Cowboys' defensive line is decent, and the Giants' defensive line is meh. But going up against these guys every day in practice, you're not going to face a better defensive line than this every week, except for when we go up against San Francisco during the regular season. I mean, they're the only other team that you can really compare, I guess, to this defensive line. And so this offensive line should only improve by going up against them every day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this offensive line is going to be tested by the time that they get to week 1. I think there'll be a sigh of relief almost to say. Now, something that I have thought about, if like, how somebody put out a question on Twitter a couple months ago, said, if you were the head coach of the Washington football team, what would be the first thing you would do when you became the head coach? And one thing I wanted to say was have once a week have practices on FedEx Field. Because for some reason I've always felt like players have always just been uncomfortable at FedEx. That it just hasn't felt like that kind of home field advantage from a player's aspect. And so I always thought that was something they should have been doing, get familiar with FedEx. It always felt like an away stadium, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And the team announced that they'll be having a scrimmage at FedEx Field on the 27th. So that scrimmage they're going to use as their kind of testing site for the game day, which I absolutely love. This is a win-win situation for all sides.
Yeah, nah, it's a great idea. I'm sure that they're going to put it on Twitter and they'll make it live, so that'll be even better. Get to instead of actually being able to go to watch them at training camp like everyone usually does, or being able to go into the stadium because they're not allowing people to the stadium this year. It's going to be hopefully they'll have it on Twitter, and it'll be good to see that live, and you can get some like live reps going in there and see some 11 on 11. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. And as far as like practicing in there, I know that it sounds like a good idea, and it would be cool. But like FedEx is already like a crappy field as it is. You imagine practicing on there once a week, like
yeah. Well, like they would have to be able to invest the money into getting an actual good field, obviously.
Hey, Jason Wright on the business side, that's what that
yeah. Any former player,
Did they say obviously this is going to be an inter-squad scrimmage, right? This is going to be Redskins versus
I didn't see who they would be scrimmaging. It just said scrimmage.
Right, so I would imagine that's what it is, and it makes complete sense, especially with no preseason this year, and it's exactly what college teams do. In the spring ball to kind of test where they're at, and I love it. I think it's awesome, especially doing it on FedEx Field at the stadium.
Yeah, just getting everyone used to the situation. And look, it's not like they're going to run into FedEx. It's not like they're going to run into FedEx and be like, "Oh, this is unfamiliar." Like they're going to be used to it. They're already going to be seeing it. Now, let's move on to the recent pressers that have come out from the team. One being Ron Rivera. He spoke today. So let's get his kind of press quotes from Michael Reed.
Well, hold on. I was on Landon Collins first, and now I got to scroll over to Ron Rivera.
If you want to do Landon Collins
No. We'll talk about Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, first of all, the one thing that I love about Ron Rivera is just his how much he loves the game of football. He said that Jonathan Allen came up to him during practice. I knew you had that
on deck.
He said that he came up to him during practice and just goes, "How much do you miss it, man?" And then he just thought about it. He's like, "I do miss it. I still miss it." And you can tell Ron, just his coaching style, just the up tempo, how involved he is with the players. He really just wants to connect, and he really just wants to be seen as one of the guys. And I love that about Ron Rivera. I think that he's the perfect coach for this team. We've said that all offseason, and I love that he's just so involved.
And you know what it says?
Does it say?
He's working closely with the D-line.
And it also says that he's going to be starting at inside linebacker for the Redskins.
Hey, I wouldn't mind a little player coaching Riverboat Ron.
Right. Yeah. He would still be younger than Thomas Davis.
Right. I mean, hey, London Fletcher's on the sideline. Might as well bring him back in there. So.
Right. Might as well.
No, yeah, I love how he's getting like that bond with like the players. Obviously, I think Jay Gruden had a bond with some players, like a different kind of bond. Allegedly.
Trey Quinn,
Right. But no, yeah, I mean, I think it's more of like
Ryan Grant.
He's been preaching like a family type of atmosphere, a family type of bond where obviously everyone, Chris Russell and them called it Club J. It was more of like a fun time at Redskins Park and practice, as opposed to more of like hey, let's get stuff done. Let's critique the details, the small things, like
a work atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. One would say an actual job atmosphere.
Right. Goal oriented, yeah.
Right. But I love that he's the guy that's here, and like Kyle was saying before, like I hope he's not like really like kind of like waking up like, man, what did I get myself into? Like, why did I come here? I love that he's like kind of ingratiating himself into the culture, building the culture, and just like I said, just getting that bond with the team, and especially the younger guys, who's his core guys, who it looks like they're going to be here for hopefully years to come.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love everything that Ron Rivera is doing. Talking about Jason Wright, Rivera took some time out of his interview to specifically talk about Jason Wright, and he's just seemed very excited to work with him. He said that he knew him as a player, and he's getting to know him as a person, and I think that's very important for those two to be on the same page. Even though they're going to be dealing with different aspects of the franchise, it's still you have to be on the same page with that person, and that's really where I think you're going to see the difference between this regime and the Bruce Allen regime, where it's not just me, me, me. It's all right, we're going to work in unison. You take care of your end, I take care of my end. I trust you, you trust me, and we're just going to kind of do what's best for this franchise and do what's best for this city and this team, and we're going to put the best product out there possible.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it sounds like, and that was one of the things that I took away from Rivera's presser where he was talking about Jason Wright was how he said among his like clique, the people that he knows and have gotten familiar with around the league on a personal level, how many people he knew with Jason Wright, just common friends, and how much great things they had to say about Jason Wright. And I'm glad that Ron Rivera is the one thing that he said was this was Snyder's decision. The fact that
Right.
he's letting everyone know, no, this wasn't me. This was Dan. Give credence to Dan where it deserves. And look, a lot of credit to Jason Wright. I'm glad that this decision was made. Hats off to everyone involved.
Yeah, like I said before in the beginning, 2020 is a crazy year, so we're giving credit to Dan Snyder. And when again,
Yeah.
if you're gonna be harsh on him, you got to be as equally credit given or whatever you want to say. But he does something good. So yeah, great on him for like I said before in the interview where they just kind of build a bond on like values and like the culture and kind of like what they saw as far as like going forward, and then they started talking business and finance and when can you start. So yeah, it's definitely a great thing. And as far as like Ron being like he's handling his thing, I'm handling my thing, and I've heard nothing but great things about him. I mean, obviously, if Ron Rivera's going to endorse you as far as being a good guy, he's like at the top of the list as far as like
Right.
good guys around the league. So yeah, it's a great thing, and it's a great culture that's hopefully being built and cultivated around Ashburn.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that Ron said earlier, we had talked about how they're kind of finding the right combinations of players. They're kind of rotating people around. He brought that up with Dwayne Haskins, and he said that while Haskins was working with the first offensive line mostly, he was working with the second group of receivers as well as the first bunch. So he was getting some work in there with those guys. I know the first bunch was McLaurin, Steven Sims Jr., and Dontrell Inman.
Mm.
And then the second bunch was AGG, Trey Quinn, and who else was it? I have it somewhere on here.
James Sims.
Yeah, and Cam Sims. And so I think that's good, just getting him used to playing with every wide receiver on this team because it's always next man up. You never know what's going to happen. You specifically want him to get comfortable with AGG, somebody you think is going to be here for a while. I know Cam Sims has looked good again in camp. Who knows if that'll actually translate
Right.
this year or not. But I think it's smart. I love what this coaching staff is doing so far with the players. Remember last year, it was a very big thing that Dwayne Haskins didn't get any reps with the first team. That's why he came in against the Giants when he had to sub in that game and just
Mm.
looked terrible because he wasn't working with the first team. He didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
They're having Dwayne Haskins work with everybody. That way he's comfortable with everybody. So I just think it's already just night and day between this last era and this new era.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it makes sense with all the health issues and concerns,
Right.
and I think this is a growing kind of a thing because when Ron Rivera in his presser, when he was alluding to the multiple packages that they're having with the offensive line set and the wide receivers, multiple starters, what they're essentially saying is, you have to be ready for every situation. So we're making sure that in case injuries go down, every player has worked with them in the past. They have some sort of experience between one another. And I think that is the most important piece because, look, stuff happens. Injuries happen. You have to be able to step right in and play in an uncomfortable spot. And doing just this is the perfect way to be able to get that done. Hats off to Ron Rivera.
yeah, 100% agree. And speaking of like next man up and injuries and blah blah blah, I mean, I think I saw earlier that John Terrell Inman was running the route pulled up because he had something wrong with his leg or calf or knee or something like that. So, I mean, look for AGG to maybe be running at the ones tomorrow, depending on how Inman's injury is. I would assume he's probably going to sit him just to be safe anyway. So look for that. But yeah, I mean, again, everyone knows that going even back to like 2017, 18, this has been an injury plagued team. It's just been killing us. There's been no depth. There's been no like gelling together as far as like the starters with the backups, the third stringers, whoever what you want to call it. So it's definitely a great thing, and this is definitely smart on the coaching staff to like again point out one of the flaws of the teams from the past and kind of strengthen it this offseason going forward.
Yeah. And we'll switch gears a little bit here to Landon Collins. Landon Collins came up. He spoke today. He had a lot of things to say. He said he's glad to be back on the field, and that this is just, by the way, these quotes right here credited to Zach Selby, who we've had on the show a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times. So I just, you know, he said that he's glad to be back on the field. It's been a unique offseason, but he likes the atmosphere and the opportunity to play. Collins said the practices have had high intensity. The competition's upbeat, up tempo, and coaches are putting them in the right situations to make plays. And you saw that. I believe who was it? Was it Ronald Darby who had an interception, or some? It was one of the corners had an
It was
interception.
Greg
No, Greg
Stroman.
Stroman. Yeah, it was Greg Stroman, and you just saw the defense. Every member of the defense, even if they were first team members, went over, got hyped.
Terrible throw by Allen, by the way.
Oh yeah. But it's just good to see. You can tell that this is just going to be a very up tempo team, and that's what Ron Rivera has talked about this entire offseason, is that these practices are going to be real fast, real up tempo, and I think that that's a way that you have success. You want to be in better condition, and you want to be able to catch the defense slipping. You want your defense to be able to have the stamina to hang with some of these offenses that are very fast paced. And I just love it. Intensity. Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio are two very intense people. So I think that it's good that it's being reflected in their coaching.
Yeah, and look, because with Club J in the past and everything that this team has come from, intensity is great. Pressure creates diamonds, and that's what the competition is doing here. It's creating pressure. Jobs are on the line. They're trying to make a good impression for this coaching staff, and if that gets reiterated with the intensity, then that's what that's going to showcase on the football field. And I'm so glad to hear it, because how many years have you been wanting some sort of just tough nosed mentality up front? And I'm glad that Landon Collins is speaking to that and saying that's what's happening at practice. Because I've talked about it before last week with the Michael Jordan documentary. It's hard. You have to practice harder than what the playoffs would be. It has to be insanely, and that's what the Ron Rivera is doing.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that grew up playing any type of sports, the motto is always you practice how you play, you practice how you play. So for them to be doing up tempo, kind of intense practices, I mean, obviously they've been preaching all off season. We're gonna come to the field, we're gonna attack the football on defense, we're gonna attack the passer while going up the field, while playing the pass, whatever, and we're gonna be aggressive on defense. We're gonna be aggressive on offense. So they're gonna be faster on offense, more up tempo, more upbeat. So yeah, like you said, practice how you play. So I'm glad to see that they're actually preaching something and not just preaching it. They're actually going out and doing it and executing it.
Yeah.
Right. And speaking of high tempo and intense, Collins talked about Reuben Foster a little bit, which is another storyline that we all love and that we're all excited for. Collins said that Reuben Foster is intense and a tone setter. He knows what to do as a linebacker and is someone he can rely on. And that goes back, of course, to their Alabama days. They know each other, of course, very well. And that's one thing that you continue to hear about Reuben Foster, and that I kind of got from his interview when I watched him, is that this guy, like Thomas Davis said, this guy was just built to be a linebacker. Like he's a perfect linebacker. He seems to be in the right mental state right now. We know he had some off the field issues before when he first came into the league, but now he's learning how to use that intensity that he had in college that he was so feared for, and that what made him such a smart player, and use it in the NFL, and use it. Hopefully we get to see him on the field this season, because this guy could be a complete defensive game changer. I mean, having somebody like that with that potential, that hard hitting ability on the defense, I think is just to put this team really over the top.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of remind me of the San Francisco days with Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman back there, and then Reuben Foster coming in and cleaning up. I think it's going to be a lot like that with this defense. And look, Reuben Foster, I'm love to hear it. But the one thing that I took away from Ron Rivera is he had a lot of praise for Troy Apke as well. Yeah. And because people were asking questions like, whoa, Troy Apke was lining up with the first team next to Landon Collins. And credit to Ron Rivera, because he said, we have to be able to mix packages with, and there's some people who match better with other players, and that going to Landon being in the box player, and Troy Apke being more of a deer I guess is
Yeah,
that
he's
a good way to
definitely in the
say it?
headlights.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, he's caught in the
glider?
headlights.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna say gets caught in the headlights.
No, no, like he's
he
a
does
glider.
that.
He covers a lot of ground very
Yeah,
quickly.
He
right.
does do
He's a,
that.
he's
He
a
does do
he's
that.
a center fielder type
Yeah.
with his speed and athleticism. And the one thing I did think was funny when Rivera was talking about Apke is this coaching staff just always seems to echo what the fans say. And he talked about, he was like, he's a guy who has all the athletic traits. He's got the speed. He's got a good football IQ. The one thing we got to work on with him is his angles.
Yeah,
He
the
takes horrible
moves.
angles, and
Yeah.
it's so true. Like his tackling angles and just some of the angles he takes towards the ball carrier. You're just like, come on, man, what are you doing?
Some of those are by design, though. Like
Yeah.
at that level, the players are so good at the angles. Like they take bad angles on purpose because they don't want to have to go tackle that guy.
Apke wasn't. Apke was just that. I think.
Yeah, I think he
That was
literally
always
just like
that was always the knock on him, even
Yeah.
at Penn State. He's not the most.
He's not a hitter.
Yeah, not at all.
He's not a thumper. Like
No.
Landon Collins, for example.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean it's competition, so like you said before, and you don't want to just have the starters out there going like 1-on-1, and you got to see who fits and gels together. So, me personally, I think it'll be Sean Davis and Landon Collins back there to start the season.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's good to get Apke some work in early in there now with no preseason games. You got to see what you got in practice. So why not? And then if he steps up and ends up being one of those rotational guys and come in on some type of packages and make some plays here and there, then so be it. Because, I mean, again, I know a lot of the fan base doesn't really expect much out of him, but if you go back and watch towards the end of the season, he was out there flying around making plays here and there. So maybe this coaching staff can bring a little bit of another level of play out of him that Bumnusky couldn't.
Yeah, actually, a little known fact about Troy Apke is PFF graded him as the highest rated safety in the NFC East last season with a minimum of 200 snaps. So, that shows you he actually played fairly well last season.
Yeah, he did. He actually, remember, he came on late in the season. He actually
played decent.
Yeah, he strung together a couple great games.
And so another player that we've heard a lot about this offseason, I mean, from Coach Savage to just some of these people that have just praised this guy was Jimmy Moreland. Landon Collins had a lot to say about him. Landon Collins said that Jimmy Moreland has done a great job and knows what his responsibilities are. He said Moreland is picking his brain on things, and he likes the fact that he can have Moreland working on the field with him and that they gel together. And then Zach Selby reported that Moreland has improved his instincts and play recognition. He's recognizing things before they happen, which shows the progress he's made since his rookie year, which is you just love to hear that because we all know Jimmy Moreland has a knack for getting his hands on the football, whether that be an interception or a pass breakup. And he was so exciting last year in mini camp. And he has all the ability to be a very, very good cornerback in this league. And for him to improve his football IQ, I just think is tremendous, and that can only help this team.
Yeah, and this goes directly to Jimmy's strengths because
he ran with the ones, by the way, today too.
And so because Jimmy is such a talented player, whenever you put him, he's one of those guys that whenever you put him on the field, he's gonna ball out, right? But at the pro level, you have to be able to stop thinking, and there's so much going on a intellectual scale on any given play that you have to be able to know what's coming. And once that comes into fruition, once that finally gels and you're able to play within your little zone, like you could say Josh Norman did in Carolina, then you can go make plays. And that's where Jimmy Moreland fits best. When he's comfortable, whenever he's able to read the situation, feel like he's okay, that's where he's like a dog. And I feel like we're going to see a Jimmy Moreland that was reminiscent of him preseason last year. Just being a ball hawk, with this defense because it's like Ron Rivera has said before, this is going to be an attacking defense. And if quarterback's running for his life, forcing throws, what's more important than an opportunistic secondary member? And that's why I feel like Jimmy Moreland is really going to do well this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to have a pretty big impact on this defense playing in the secondary this season. If you go back and look at the track record, Ron Rivera and his coaching staff, guys like Josh Norman. I forget where Bradbury went to school, but I'm going to assume it was not a very big school.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
But they got the track record of turning guys like that from like Jimmy Rollins from JMU, kind of a smaller school, guys like that into like, I'm not going to say superstars, but damn near good, solid quarterbacks in this league. And I'm not going to obviously say that he might reach Bradbury or Josh Norman at his height, kind of like status. But I mean, as long as he's a solid player and guys like Chris Harris who have that Super Bowl pedigree, guys that have played in the league before and like know what it takes to be a good player in this league are giving him praise, as well as Ron Rivera and Landon Collins, guys that have been there before and done it at an All-Pro level. I think he's going to, like I said, have a huge impact, and I think he's going to be on the outside and the inside. They might put him back at safety one time, so I think he'll be all over the place this year making plays.
Yeah, I completely agree. And from one side of the ball with a lightning rod playmaker to the other side of the ball with a lightning rod playmaker, Steven Sims had a lot to say to the media today. Some of his interesting quotes. Sims thinks that there's definitely enough room on the offense for all of the versatility it has. He thinks it'll force defenses to play the whole field, which I think we've been saying the entire time. This versatility is really going to help. Mm-hmm. And one thing that really stood out was Sims says he wants to make himself better working on the outside. I know he has the slot on lockdown pretty much, but it's a new aspect for him. But Sims said that he's been working as an outside receiver this offseason. He wants to be just as good in the slot as he is working on the outside. So that was interesting to hear. But I think he has the versatility to be able to do that, to be able to line up on the outside and not just be a slot guy. He could be a speed guy on the outside, get downfield, and he's shown it in the past. He's just a big play waiting to happen. So if he can improve his route running, which is something that he's worked very hard on this offseason, I think he can absolutely contribute to this football team and be a very big playmaker in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that what he's alluding to there, Steven, is when he's talking about having these defenses having to cover the whole field, he's talking about the pre-snap motions. What we have talked about this whole time, you always have to have somebody dedicated to that motion at all times. And if you're doing it on every play, it's going to open stuff up. You have to be able to be responsible for the whole field. And that's what Steven is saying, which is huge. Because, look, it takes eyes off of everybody. It takes eyes off of Terry. It takes eyes off of Dwayne. They have to be able to cap that if it is off of a motion. So a lot of credit to Scott Turner and Steven Sims for working on becoming an outside wide receiver. I know everyone, even myself, believe he's a slot receiver, but when these smaller wide receivers transition on the outside, they typically are superstars. We've talked about that before, and there's no one better for him to learn from than Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, he's kind of like a speed, kind of shifty guy. So definitely being on the outside, that speed will definitely help him. Obviously, guys like Tyreek Hill and the smaller kind of guys, AB, them in the league, even Hollywood Brown down over in Baltimore. The one thing that kind of separates them when they have the speed is if you can get separation on the cornerback and coming in and out of your routes, in and out of your breaks, if you can get that kind of polished down, that helps you out on the outside if you're a smaller receiver. So with him working on his route running throughout the off season, definitely I think that he definitely has the chops to play the outside. He's a physical guy. He can get physical. He's shifty, like I said before. So if he can kind of get his route running down and get in and out of his breaks a little bit harder and faster, I think he definitely has the ability to play the outside. And again, with him being on the outside, that's going to take some of the eyes off of Terry McLaurin. You got to roll some coverage to a faster guy like Steven Sims. Open up things in the middle if you have the safety kind of rolling coverage or kind of one single high, you got to pick between Terry or Steven Sims, or you're going to cover deep on the go route. So, I hope that he can polish some of his route running and become maybe an outside threat, even if it's not to that level of AB or Hollywood Brown or guys like that, but just a solid guy.
Real quick, you mentioned Hollywood Brown and his separation ability. Did you see that video today of him going up against Marlon Humphrey? And Marlon Humphrey, one of the best cover corners in the NFL. And Hollywood Brown just got him with a quick move. And once that separation, there's no chance Humphrey was catching him.
One of my sleepers this year in fantasy.
Yeah, it was just so fun to see. But Hall, you talked about his route running. Steven Sims commented on that. Sims said he was working on his catching and route running this offseason. He wanted to learn how to better maintain his speed and pad level at the top of his routes. Sims said that he likes the posts and the deep routes in this offense because he wants to show that he has the ability to track deep passes downfield. He also likes the jet sweeps and reverses because it allows him to get in open space and make plays. So
he also doesn't want to get hit.
Right, yeah, exactly. So like you talked about, Hall, him just better learning how to control his body during routes, it's only going to benefit him, how to keep his pad level how to maintain his speed during his breaks. It's only going to benefit him. And like you kept talking about, Kyle, the motions, and then there's going to be a lot of trickery in this offense. There's going to be a lot of people moving, jet sweeps. He's excited for it. He says that the reverses and the jet sweeps are going to happen, and like you said, he doesn't want to be tackled, so of course he likes to be wide.
He got to work on his hands too. I know, like that was one of his things coming out, like probably why he went undrafted. He kind of had like a little bit of a catching problem and like looking the ball the way in. So that's obviously easily like, fixable because if you make it to the NFL, obviously you can catch a pass. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll be able to get it down this year.
Yeah, and whenever a wideout talks about refining their route running, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm awesome, glad to hear it, and hopefully it continues to transcend because he is a pivotal player in this offense. You talk about his speed, defenses have to be responsible for it at all times, and so he is a weapon to be used and can be used as sort of a mischievous piece. He can be used as a decoy at times to be able to make defenses look a certain way. So I absolutely love that from Steven Sims.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to say about Landon Collins when he was talking he was asked about the differences from this season and last season. And he said, we're trying to keep the consistency, jogging to the field, making a play to the ball. This coaching staff is critiquing every part of their performance and nothing can be half done. And that is just so huge. I mean, you see that they're running to the field. There was a video of Dwayne Haskins staying after, throwing some extra passes, and in the background you see Montez Sweat and Chase Young running, staying out on the field. So these people, this team is, a lot of players on this team have the natural ability, and to see the fact that they're driven and being pushed by this coaching staff, I think is only going to work out well for us in the long run.
Yeah, and there was another video of Morgan Moses. He did a block, and it was a drill, and you saw him running right back to the line to get set up for the next one. So look, it's something that like you literally teach in Pee Wee when you're coaching, hustle to the ball. But look, they do it at the pro level, and obviously the guys are responding to it because it's just one of those things where the culture has been a certain way for so long that they're starving for this type of change, and I'm glad that they're responding the way that they are.
Yeah, I mean, Rivera said it, I think, in his presser today, I want to say it was that, they're teaching the guys their techniques and kind of getting guys to be like, this is the way that we do things. They don't want them to be like, kind of go back to their old ways and kind of how the old kind of things were at Redskins Park. So, yeah, it's definitely, they need someone to like stay on their asses and like you said, not really be like a Pee Wee coach, but kind of like go back to the fundamentals and this is what we're expecting of you. And like, so, I mean, again, accountability. What can you say about it? You love it.
Right. Yeah. And talking about the trickery that Steven Sims was talking about, Rhiannon Walker was live tweeting during the practice, and it was interesting. He had this one tweet that said, "Oh, I love a little trickeration in this dancery." Dwayne Haskins in the backfield with Adrian Peterson fakes the handoff, little flick of the wrist pitch to Steven Sims, who took the reverse and got a good chunk of yards on the sideline. So that just speaks to what we were talking about, that those reverses with Steven Sims, and it's going to be so fun to see the Scott Turner offense. I don't think that a lot of people really understand. Everybody that's not from this area and doesn't necessarily follow the Redskins, or I'm sorry, the Washington football team, looks at this team and they just automatically pencil them in for a top 2 draft pick because they say that they're not that talented. But they don't understand that this coaching staff is so good, and they've got some pretty talented guys on this team that can really make an impact in this league.
Yeah, and it's funny because Steven Sims saying that reminds me a lot of Navy. Whenever you go against that type of offense, a triple option, we, as a Virginia Tech fan, we went against it all the time, going against Georgia Tech. And you would look at it and say, yeah, it's easy. Stop the triple option, be able to contain on the outside. No, there's so many outlets, there's so many moving pieces. It's so hard to be able to contain that offense. And this is what Scott Turner is essentially trying to do with a pro-style offense. Bringing that motion at pre-snap, a lot of confusion, a lot of eyes on separate places instead of it all being on the quarterback. It's only going to make everyone's job easier, and I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the top offenses in the league. They have a lot of trickeration, a lot
Andy
of
Reid,
Yeah, Sean Payton. Patrick Mahomes, or you say Andy Reid, my bad. But guys like that, even Mike McCarthy now that he's had an off season to kind of like step back and kind of like.
No.
I'm joking.
Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett.
But now, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be like I said, I think this
Kyle
offense.
Shanahan. There we go. That
Yeah.
was the actual one.
Man,
There we go. All right, we're good.
Sean McVay. Sean
Sean McVay. There
Sean
you go.
McVay. Sean McVay.
Now, yeah, I
Every
think this is
single
going
Redskins
to. What's his name? LaFleur.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, I think that I think this offense is going to be like I said before, it's going to surprise a lot of people. I think the preseason, no preseason, is actually going to help because it's not going to really like show anything to the Eagles what they're going to expect week one. And if they come out firing all cylinders, they can hit them in the mouth like real quick, and let the defense kind of play and be free. And who knows what can happen from there? I mean, we can play the whole season, and a lot of things can happen. Like Reed said, there's a lot of young talent on this team. And I don't think Rivera, he had a lot of open jobs. He could have took any job he wanted to.
Yeah.
He saw the young talent on this team. He saw the chance to kind of take a loser back to the top again, and I'm here for it.
And I know a lot of people are already penciling in the Washington football team, got it right, to lose to the Eagles in week one. But you really got to think, especially with no preseason, the one benefit that this team has is the Eagles have had Doug Peterson forever. We know what they like to do on offense. We know what they like to do on defense. You're not really sure what exactly this Scott Turner offense is going to look like. You don't know exactly what this Jack Del Rio defense with this defensive line is going to do. So they could easily just come out and get smacked in the mouth. And hopefully it'll be for 4 quarters this year, unlike last year where it was for a half, and then we ended up getting spanked.
That was the whole season. It was that first half of the game.
That first half was awesome, and then it was all downhill from there. But that's something I don't think is really being talked about enough because, preseason, even if teams are very manila in the preseason, they don't show their hands a lot, of course, unless you're Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
It still allows defensive coordinators and coaches to get a feel for your team and what you like to do and what you're going to do and your blocking schemes and all sorts of stuff. So not having that this year is really going to be pretty interesting because they have no idea. They might be able to watch some Panthers tape from late last year with Scott Turner calling the plays, but these are different players.
Yeah,
this is a completely different team. So that could end up completely working out in our benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for this show. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm Kyle.
I am Paul.
And I'm Dwayne Haskins Jr., and I approve of Joe Biden's presidency.
I'm glad to hear it. All right, everyone. A little bit of announcement. We're now on Google Pods. We are trying to get on iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify as well, along with Good Pods, iTunes. You can find us on YouTube as well, and then Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow us at The Burgundy Zone. You can follow Mike Hall at TBZ Money Mike 301, and then you can find Mike Reed at Mike Reed 2156.
There you go. And at Funny Danny.
And at Funny Danny. All right, everyone. We'll see you again on Thursday. We'll have more topics to discuss for you, and we'll have a big guest as well. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo!